Greetings, fellow humans. I'm Martian Boo, and today I wanted to talk about the balance changes that are happening for Constructed today. These went live a little earlier. I've already played with them. I'm going to kind of speed through because I don't know how much it actually affects Wild, at least to the best of my ability. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so in the first part here, they're basically saying they do balance patches a lot more often, so it can seem really painful when they're hung up around the holidays and stuff like that. They would have liked to come out with this balance patch sooner, and they're going to look at ways to make sure that they can do that in the future when they have hangups like time of year. All right, so first up we have Wildpan Knoll. So for Wildpan Knoll, the interaction with it and Maestra no longer works. It is going for non-rogue class cards instead of just class cards from another class. Sinstone Graveyard is losing stealth, so it's otherwise the same except the ghost doesn't come out stealthed. I kind of like that because I do feel like I lose a lot of games to the Sinstone Graveyard because I can't interact with the ghost at all, so it gives me the opportunity to like Shadow Word Death or something. So for the Knoll, I feel like I'm a little happy to see that change in general because I feel like the card was supposed to be a strong Thief Rogue payoff and it was a strong Maestra payoff. I would almost like to see its attack go back up, and I'd otherwise be really happy about that change. The one thing though is it even says here, like it's a Knoll Maestra interaction that's been changed. So I would have liked to see us get Dust back from Maestra. But otherwise, those are really strong cards. I completely understand why that got changed, and Standard at least definitely needed it. Krug is also very good in Wild, so that's probably, of all the changes, the one I think will feel the most outside of maybe Astor. Final Showdown, the first stage of the quest is now going to require you to draw 6 instead of 4. Sinful Brand is now going to cost 2 up from 1. So I guess the Sinful Brand combo was really strong in Standard. It actually was kind of decent in Wild. It was maybe almost there. Every time I try to build a deck with the Token Demon Hunter, it feels like just on the fringes. So that's kind of how Demon Hunter is in Wild. It gets almost there, and then if you're almost there in Wild with Standard Demon Hunter, that means it's absurd in Standard and it gets nerfed. So not unusual. But as far as like affecting the meta, there's not much change. Shock Spitter is going from cost 3 to cost 4. No surprise there. Also from Standard point of view, for Wild, no one's even really put much effort into this, I don't think, since it's been nerfed the first time. So again, we're not really going to notice it. The funny upside of this is now Even Hunter can use it again. Glacial Advance, going from reducing the cost of your next spell by 2 to reducing the cost of your next spell by 1. I'm a little sad for this change just because I want Death Knight to be stronger, but I do feel like what I really want for Death Knight is more cards. I don't know that they could do much to get me more excited about Death Knight other than reducing the runes on the triple rune things. So that would be my preferred change when it comes to changing Death Knight. So I do understand why this got changed because Frost Death Knight did have a very damage you from hand, kill you in 1 turn type of play style, and that makes sense to discourage that a bit. It's just a little sad because it was the only Death Knight deck in Standard that was working. But mini set around the corner, maybe something cool is in store. Astor Bloodsworn, I wasn't really expecting this change, but it seems all right. So they're adding a Mana Thirst to the first 2 stages. So mana is unchanged, effect is unchanged, the first two stages, but the Mana Thirst is going up by 1. And when that matters, I think is, so first of all, if you want the effect, you get it a turn later. So instead of being able to Astor stage 1 on 4, you would now have to wait a whole extra turn to be able to do the 2 quick damage. So that's nothing to ignore. But it also means that if you're going to play stage 2 or stage 3 on curve, it means you didn't get value out of the previous stage because now the Mana Thirst is only active on the curve turn of the next step. So before you could Astor on 4 and then just play the stage 2 on 5 in order to have a curve outplay. But now if you did that on 4, you're not going to be able to do the 2 damage. Kind of subtle changes, which is good because I think Astor is the type of strong card that I like. It didn't feel awful to play against, but it was absurdly broken in every deck, so warranted a change. The other change that they're doing is to stage 3, it's going to do a little bit less damage, which is more of the type of thing that I was actually expecting. So it's going from dealing 16 total damage to dealing 14, and that's 1 off each stage. So the first stage does 7 instead of 8. Another good change, we'll see how much those two impact each other. I didn't really get much chance to actually play Astor earlier today, and people weren't playing it against me, so I don't really know how far Astor has fallen. Next up, we have some buffs. So this is one of the big ones. Battlefield Necromancer, the token is getting 1 more health. This is one of the best mulligan cards in the popular Even Death Knight build, so it's going to be even better in the mulligan. By how much? Hard to say, but it helps that deck. Then the other card that uses that token, Bone Guard Commander, is also having its health raised on the tokens. I don't know that this card sees play until the rest of Blood Death Knight gets more stuff. We'll see if the extra health is enough for standard, but at least for wild, I don't expect to see this anymore. Unholy Frenzy is going from cost 3 to cost 2, which does open it up to Even Death Knight. This is the type of card where you need to have a board already for it to be good. So if you have a big board that's worth Unholy Frenzying, you're already winning. So this doesn't help you get to a winning position. It helps you keep a winning position, and it's kind of dead before that. So until there's like more Death Rattle synergies or more 0 cost minions that Death Knight wants to play, I think that this is still going to be a school teacher only card. Wither, choose a minion. Each friendly undead steals 1 attack and health from it. I feel like this would go in an undead aggro druid, and I don't think that's coming out anytime soon in wild. Bone Collar was a 2/4, is now going to be a 2/5. Haunting Nightmare was a 3/3, is now going to be a 4/3. And it's summoned a 3/3 and it's going to summon a 4/3. So that's pretty good. And then High Cultist Basilef. 4 mana 3/5, resurrect all friendly undead that died after your last turn. I don't know how much undead synergy there is for wild to play with and have it be effective, but these cards do seem a lot better, so maybe I'll give it a shot soon. Darkan Dressier, so 7 mana 6/6 lifesteal undead. At the end of your turn, it deals 6 damage to the enemy hero, used to cost 8. So this is kind of bittersweet because like this is definitely better and it wasn't good before, but I could play it in an even warlock before, which I feel like was its easiest path to playability. So since we didn't skip over the 7th slot and go straight to 6, which maybe would have been a little absurd, I don't know that we see this in wild. The other undead support, even with there's another one here that's getting buffed, I think is just slightly too slow for a wild list to take off, but maybe it's worth exploring. Infantry Reanimator, so battle cry, resurrect a friendly undead, give it reborn. It used to cost 6, now it costs 5. This type of card feels like you want to play the undead first and then play, well, obviously you want to play it first, but you want to play this on curve, having played an undead first. So that type of thing makes me think Flesh Giant more so than Dressier, at least as far as wild is concerned. There is something that lets you cheat out the undead, but it also costs 5. When you play I forget what it's called, I think it's an ooze or something, but it came out same set. You discard an undead from your hand, and then its Death Rattle summons a copy of it. So it's not like you can play that on 5 and play this any sooner. It's still to play that first to get the undead out. That happens on 5, and this would still happen at soonest on 6. So I don't know that that's going to make that package work in wild any better, but it is interesting. I like these types of cards. I'm rooting for them. Vengeful Walloper used to cost 7, now costs 6. So apparently, I haven't really been seeing it, but apparently the people who are playing Outcast Demon Hunter are doing all right with it, even before this change. Outcast Demon Hunter is something that apparently is worth keeping an eye on. And 1 cost on something that can go to 0 it's easy to overlook how strong that can be. So I think that this costing 6 instead of 7 is going to matter a lot, especially since this was one of the big reasons you were playing that in the first place. So look out for Outcast Demon Hunter. Energy Shaper used to cost 4 and was a 3/5, now costs 3 and is a 3/4. So transform all spells in your hand into ones that cost 2 more, and they keep their original cost. I think in wild that this is a meme card. I haven't actually tried it myself, but I would expect it to be just for the memes. But I think Spider Tank is a lot better than 4 mana 3/5, so might be worth exploring. The thing is, if you're going to do something like this, you're doing it in Quest Mage, and there are just better things to do in Quest Mage than this. So we'll see. Speaking of Quest Mage, Vast Wisdom is going from 3 mana to 2 mana, which I played a lot of Quest Mage today. Seems really good. I think this card is really good. It gives you 2 quest advancements for 2 mana, which is pretty good rate, and a lot of agency over what those effects are. And it lets you get out slightly absurd things for a cheaper cost. I got a 1 mana ice block today. That was cool. So yeah, I think this is going to be staple in Quest Mage moving forward. Definitely a decent Quest Mage buff. So for those of you who enjoy that deck. Time Morton was a 4 mana 3/5, is now a 3 mana 3/4. So it gives your dragons you summon next turn Taunt and Divine Shield. Probably still not enough for wild, but as long as we get some more dragons in the future, I could see something popping up pretty soon. Asfendon was a 3 mana 3/3, is now a 3 mana 3/4 with Taunt. So copies the last spell your opponent played. Today I played this after my opponent's Soulfire and it shot itself. So that is my complete experience with Asfendon. I don't really know what deck wants this, but it's certainly better. You know, like having the other health and the taunt gives it universal utility. It's not just kind of like something you hold in hand until your opponent plays their big value spell. It's a shame your opponent keeps taking turns after Time Warp, or else you could get yourself a Time Warp with this. Disruptive Spellbreaker was a 5 mana 4/5, is now a 5 mana 4/6. I do think if Control Warrior ever gets going in Wild, this has a decent chance of making the cut, but Last Stand was 4 mana, draw a taunt, double its stats, is now 1 mana, draw a taunt, and if mana thirst 7, double its stats. So you are doubling the stats a lot later. I do think maybe the mana thirst was a bit conservative. I maybe would have liked to see this, maybe mana thirst 4 or 5 or something. But yeah, if this gets too early, it's pretty absurd, right? The wild application of this is this can be played on 1 with only Serenite Chain Gang in your deck to make sure that you have a Serenite Chain Gang in your hand, and then you play all of the taunt buff in your hand things. On turn 4, you play a Serenite that's like a 10-12 or something funny, and get a copy. So mana thirst aside, just being able to tutor the 1 taunt in your deck has a meme application in Wild at least. We'll see how good this is. I could see it potentially making some waves in Standard if Warrior is otherwise good enough. Nellies Pirate Ship. So the original nerf was they cost 1 less from they cost 1, which is enormous, and now it's going to be they cost 2 less. Hopefully this will be nice for Standard players who had their Colossal absolutely ruined while every other class has a decent Colossal. How good is this in Wild? Random Pirates aren't very good, Slow Warrior isn't very good, so I don't think we'll see much play with it. And Ramonia, the Living Blade, is going from a 4/10 to a 5/10. So I played Odd Warrior to try out all of these cards after they got buffed, and Odd Warrior is still not there, sorry to say. But Ramonia as a 5/10 actually feels pretty decent as far as being an anti-aggro tool. I felt like I had infinite removal against the even Death Knight that I played while I had my Ramonia up. The other relevant thing about it costing 5 is now Cutting Class doesn't cost anything when you play this. So if you were playing it in a not odd list alongside the Blacksmithing Hammer, Forge of Souls, Cutting Class, Draw Engine, this could be a neat part of that now. I don't know how good this is. I think it might make the cut in the right deck if the right deck ever emerges, but not out there in Wild quite yet. So that about wraps things up. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these changes, if there's something else you would like to see. Mini set probably coming soon, so look forward to that. Remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.